You can find us at absoluteptg.com or by phone and text at 972-375-5100.
It was 30 years of pain, hiding what I did.
It destroyed my life, little by little.
I have hidden my true emotions since that day, the day I had the abortion.
I was convinced, without a doubt, that God would not forgive me.
Are you suffering with the burden of a past abortion? Come on a Rachel's Vineyard retreat and release your burden. Call 214-544-CARE.
Attending the retreat allowed me to finally open up and share with others who have been down the same road.
I am renewed. I have a sense of freedom, and I can finally feel God's grace.
God healed each wound. I didn't have to do the work. All I had to do was come.
I give thanks to God that He called me to the vineyard.
Give yourself a chance to feel alive again. Call 214-544-CARE or visit racheldallas.org.
Thanks for listening to KATH 910 AM Frisco, Dallas, Fort Worth. Catholic radio for your soul on the Guadalupe Radio Network in North Texas. Heard also at grnonline.com and on your smartphone. Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
And good afternoon, everybody, there in our GRN digital world. My name is Sissel Anderson. I am not Dave Palmer. This seems to be a common trend these days. But welcome to Back to the Father. I am one of the co-hosts of this program. It's all about St. Thomas Aquinas, particularly his teachings in the Summa. And I'm joined with our intern, William, who is scrambling last minute. It's been a crazy week. I think we need to just put that out there, that it's been a very unusual week. Wherever you are watching, if you're in the North Texas area, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if like Houston and San Antonio had the same amount of ice situation that we had, but we have not left our houses for the last like
3 days. 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
So it's been a little bit wild.
Yeah.
We again are lacking heat in our offices as well. That's why we're particularly at least I'm all puffed up, like all cozy over here. Dave Palmer will be joining us in just a moment. Today's topic, though, if you're on our email list, you saw what the title of the topic was, and it's pretty interesting. St. Thomas Aquinas's top 6 most controversial teachings or something along those lines. And I've already been informed to be prepared to be offended today. So I am looking forward to that. And if hopefully everyone who's usually on our GRN YouTube channel finds us, I did put it in the link in the email. But we are currently banned thanks to an old old live stream from another show a couple years ago. We were banned from live streaming on our GRN
From a
YouTube
couple years
channel.
ago?
Yeah, it was from a while ago.
Oh, wow.
That's what's very disappointing. I'm like, oh, come on. Now you're banning us for that?
Oh.
But we're on Facebook. We're on the Back to the Father YouTube channel. So if you're here, make sure you give a little shout out and say hi to us because we love to get your feedback. You can always call in during the discussion as well. And I try to keep an eye on the comments as much as possible. But other than that, William, how have you survived the really cold last few days?
Well, I survived them. We didn't really leave the house that much. On Tuesday, we actually did take the risk of going out and going to Mass at noon.
Oh, okay. If there's one way you're going to die on the roads, I guess on your way to Mass.
On the way to Mass, exactly. But my dad drove really safely, and we got there and back. And then Wednesday, it was so tedious. He and my younger brother actually started, and it was so bad that they actually had to come back. They were going out to Mass, and they came back, and we didn't go out anywhere else for Wednesday. We usually have a co-op on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes.
Those were both canceled. So, So yeah, it's been a crazy 3 days with all the cancellations and everything, but I survived them, so that's what's good.
Survive so that we can come back to the Father. You know, we really only come in for this show nowadays, right? Is that the case?
All right. I learned a very valuable lesson today.
Yes.
Don't schedule a bishop to come into the studio and end about 5 minutes before you start this show. So thank you so much.
Boy, that was kind of like your debut of hosting Back to the Father. I think you nailed it.
Oh, thank you. I was still getting my own stuff ready because the thing about having a bishop in the studio is that we also could. William is the MVP right now because he got our live stream up in about 3 minutes before the show started.
Well, you know that's kind of how things roll in live radio and media. So, anyways, thanks so much. We're not on YouTube.
We're on YouTube as in the Back to the Father YouTube channel, which has 23 subscribers.
Okay.
That's more viewers than we normally get.
So the subscribers don't always watch. So, anyways, hopefully you found us, and this is a very interesting topic. That I chose for today. I did a YouTube video, which I think William has already seen, so he has a little bit of background information on this. And the topic is the 6 most controversial teachings in the Summa Theologia, and some of these we have touched on in the course of this. And I start off my video on YouTube saying, why am I doing this? It's like, it's like Cecil or William saying the most controversial aspects of my family. I mean,
why would you air those out?
Yeah, why would you air that out? And so I'll get that off, right off the bat. Is that well, first of all, if you are going to teach the Summa and become a devotee of Thomistic philosophy, like I certainly am, and I think to some degree you two are as well, you're going to have these topics are going to come up. People are going to say, did St. Thomas Aquinas teach this? Did he really teach that? And first of all, you need to know if it's true or not. And then secondly, either defend or apologize, depending on what is appropriate. It's also it's very interesting because a lot of this is culturally, like the things that we're going to talk about some of these were not as controversial back in the 13th century
as they are now.
Yeah.
And I think also, and this is where I got to kind of walk a thin line, is that some of these teachings that you might say that is horrible that he would teach that. I think there's a line where you say, okay, well, why was he teaching it, and what might be something that we can, we may not take the teaching wholesale, but what was he getting at? And since he is, the patron saint of all Catholic education, and he's the doctor of the doctors of the church, and I think in almost all these, one of them I have a bit of a challenge doing, but I think in all these you can say, okay, this is the good of it, even if we don't want to say, okay, we accept the entire teaching. And some of them are just kind of fun and light, and they're not all extremely controversial, but they are to a certain degree.
Look at things objectively, Dave, and not just be all emotional about it. What is that?
Exactly. But they all are interesting, though, and then it's going to make for some great conversation. I'm certain of that. Did you guys get the PowerPoint?
I did. I uploaded it.
You did get it.
It's all good.
So, having said that, y'all ready
to get started?
I am ready.
Absolutely. And these are, by the way, in ascending order of controversy.
Oh, so we're saving the best for the last.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
what I'm hearing.
Okay,
is that the one I'm going to be offended by?
You'll be particularly offended, I think, by number 3.
Number 3, got it.
Okay, and so, and we'll see. I mean, I'm very interested in your thoughts on it.
Okay.
But we'll get to that one. Okay, so there's, do you see the number 6? Okay, there's the 6 most controversial teachings in the Summa Theologia.
Did you like my graphic in the email with the arguing people?
I did like that. I thought that was great. I loved your subject line, and it was just masterful all the way. So, all right. So number 6 is the question that he asks: is it a sin to take usury for money lent? Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean,
can you define it a little bit better? So
yeah. Well, it's charging to lend money.
It's like loans,
right?
right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. We did talk about this before.
Yeah. This has been talked
so basically,
before.
if I borrow $10 from William and he charges me an extra $2.
Yeah.
kind of like interest.
Yeah, but nowadays, I think the average person would be like, "What's
That's
wrong?
like
What's wrong?
normal.
What's wrong
Yeah.
with that?" I mean, if I
Yeah.
go get a bank loan for $5,000 to start a business, I expect to be paying, 6% interest. I mean, when you do a home loan, you're going to be paying interest on it.
Yeah.
But Thomas is going to come down saying it's a sin. And so I will read the explanation, and I don't think it's real deep, but you tell me, and of course everybody out there in social media land, if you were able in fact to find us, that's the big challenge.
So hopefully people will go back and watch this episode, because I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting one. And it's sad that we're not able to be on our GRN channel.
Yeah, get the comments from everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so let me read this, and then you tell me if it makes sense to you. Okay, he says,
And usury is basically charging interest. You lend somebody 1,000, they pay you back 1,300. Okay, that's usury, right? He says to take usury for money lent is unjust in itself because this is to sell what does not exist. And this evidently leads to inequality, which is contrary to justice. In order to make this evident, we must observe that there are certain things, the use of which consists in their consumption. Thus, we consume wine when we use it for drink, and we consume wheat when we use it for food. Wherefore, in such like things, the use of the thing must not be reckoned apart from the thing itself. So you have the thing itself, and you have the use of the thing. And whoever is granted the use of the thing is granted the thing itself, and for this reason, to lend things of this kin is to transfer the ownership. Accordingly, if a man wanted to sell wine separately from the use of the wine, he would be selling the same thing twice, or he would be selling what does not exist. Wherefore, he would evidently commit a sin of injustice. Now, I'll just kind of stop there. So
if I sell you 2 liters of wine,
Okay. Wow.
and then I guess he's saying I'm giving that to you,
Right.
and then if I say you have to repay me 3 liters of wine in return, I guess he's saying, well, that 3rd liter doesn't exist, right? Because
It's never part of the deal.
Isn't there part of the deal? It's kind of
Right.
like added on.
Right. Yeah.
So if I
Makes sense.
give you $1,000 and say you have to give me $1,300, that where does that $300 come from? Of course we know it. Well, it comes from your pocket.
Right.
But I don't know. To me, it's kind of hard to get my head around
Sure.
what he's getting at here, because I
Yeah.
think we've been so conditioned
Uh-huh.
to say, hey, that's just kind of the price of doing business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I want to say when we talked about this subject previously, didn't we talk a lot about if you, I don't know, have an act of kindness on someone or something, or something that you had to repay it back? Wasn't there? Okay, hold on. Maybe I'm just completely misremembering this.
Well,
Hold on.
I think I don't remember exactly the conversation that we had, but I guess I don't understand, like, if William comes to me and says, hey, can I borrow $5,000? And I say, sure, go ahead. I guess Thomas is saying that shouldn't be a business transaction. It should just be something that I give to you and say, well,
Right.
you need to pay me back, but it would be unjust to say, you got to pay me an extra, $500 too. And you also see the payday loans where people are totally taken advantage of
Sure.
because they're down and out. They just need the money, and these payday loans are pretty immoral, where people are
They
paying
really are.
extra. You see like credit cards where people
Yeah.
are paying 25% interest. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nuts. And so you're basically taking advantage of somebody, because if somebody needs money, they need money. I wouldn't. A billionaire probably doesn't need to borrow
Right.
$5,000 from his
Right.
friend, right?
Right.
So maybe the whole point is,
Don't take advantage of people is the
Yeah.
idea.
so a person who
Makes
already is in need of of money, and then they have to pay even more back.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And that's the injustice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That would make sense.
I mean, it
yeah.
makes sense. I'm not. It's just interesting. Again, like you said, in today's culture, does that mean that every single person in the same house as mine, every single person who works for like a bank or any sort of loan service, are they,
Yeah.
liable for that sin, in his mind?
Yeah. Well, I don't think the Catholic
No,
Church.
the church doesn't
yeah,
say anything. But I'm just
Yeah,
curious to know
right.
if he would argue like, yes, they are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But then, I was thinking, like, if I want to start a business, and I need a little seed money to start that business. And I go to a bank, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead, you take $5,000, right?" Because the truth is also a lot of people don't pay back, and so the bank loses money, or they go bankrupt or stuff. But so I don't know. But I'll just read this last paragraph. He says, "Now
Money, according to the philosopher, was invented chiefly for the purpose of exchange. And consequently, the proper and principal use of money is its consumption or alienation, whereby it is sunk in exchange. Hence, it is by its very nature unlawful to take payment for the use of money lent, which payment is known as usury. And just as a man is bound to restore other ill-gotten goods, so is he bound to restore the money which he has taken in usury."
Oof.
So you got all these bankers now.
They have a lot of money. They got to give them
They talk about billions.
I have a car loan, sir.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I guess he's saying the money, you give me a dozen eggs, I give you $5. He doesn't have any problem with that. Okay, that's an exchange.
Yeah.
But you give me $5 and I have to pay you back $6. He would say that's unjust.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. I
So
feel like usually when I'm talking about with my friends and things like that, if one of us pays for, someone else's thing, we're usually just like, "Oh, I'll pay you back," or "You just cover me next time." It's not like you have to buy me a coffee and a half.
Right.
That would be ridiculous if we considered it that way, saying like, "Oh, I bought you a medium coffee, you need to buy me a large coffee next time,"
Yeah. So this would eliminate basically all banks, right?
Yeah.
Because banks would not, but if somebody wants to buy a house and they don't have the money, what do? They just have to find somebody that has goodwill. They'll say, "Oh, I'll give you, $300,000."
A lot of people having fun with people with goodwill to find a good house.
Yeah.
Or maybe everyone would just end up living in the same house for a lot longer. You wouldn't be moving from one house to another.
But it's crazy. I don't think either of you have ever bought a house.
No.
I know. But buy a house, for let's say $300,000, and then after 30 years, the amount of money that you've paid
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not like 320,000. It's like a lot.
Yeah, it's insane.
A lot
It's
more than
insane. So I don't know. Maybe he's got something going on here.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the least of the controversial
Okay.
ones. Okay. So now we move on to number 5, the 6 most controversial teachings in the Summa Theologia.
I'm certain we've talked about this one before, and this is whether every lie is a sin. Okay. We've talked about that.
We've definitely done this one,
Okay,
yeah.
so I want to show you. So you know this from the video. I did this, but I'll do it to Sissel. Okay, so
Oh, dear.
I go up to you and say, "Sissel, I just bought a new dog." Okay,
You
and,
should really get rescued them from a rescue.
Okay, and I want you to know if you think my dog is
Pretty or not. Okay. So here's my dog that I just got. It's going to pop up on your screen here in a moment.
I'm waiting.
Okay. So
I'm either expecting the cutest dog or the less cutest dog.
Well, is it not there yet?
No, hold on, we're waiting.
So anyways,
Okay. Oh. How would I respond?
Yeah, so you say, I just say, "Hey, I just got this new dog. I just think it's so cute. What do you think?
It's a face a mother could love.
So, okay, so you have.
I would be more, if it looks like that, I'd be like, well, he's certainly special and very, you're not going to get him confused with another person's dog. He's very unique. And what's important is that you think he's cute and you love him.
Now, but in all honesty, if somebody truly said
it was very sincere.
Now,
with a dog,
you probably would say, "Oh, that's
with
precious."
With a dog, I would probably be able to say like, "Oh, he's kind of cute. He's a little funky looking," but I could say with a dog.
Don't say that about somebody's kid.
That's what I'm saying. If it's like someone's kid, I'm sorry, you do not insult someone's kid. Especially a mom who's like giving birth and she's just tired and over it. You'd be like, "Oh."
I just think it's so funny because like with children, all children obviously are beautiful because they're babies and all that. But I mean, there's some babies that are not the most attractive in the world, and there are some that are just gorgeous. I recently saw some friends of mine. They had this new baby girl. She was just absolutely gorgeous. And big eyes, and I sincerely said she is beautiful. But most people say that for any kid.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw an interview with, I think, an actress who, when she had her baby, the nurse was like, "Oh, you have a gorgeous baby." And she's like, "You probably say that to all of them." And the lady goes, "No, I don't." And she goes, "Well, what do you say when they're not gorgeous?" She goes, "I say you had a baby." I was like, "Oh no."
Thank you for pointing out the obvious, right?
Yeah. You had a baby.
Okay, so we know that Aquinas and Augustine both believe that every sin is a lie. Okay.
Every lie is a sin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I guess every sin
Oh
is
yeah,
a lie.
it's a lie from the pit of
Yeah,
hell.
exactly.
It's but you know the classic example is the whole thing about the Nazi soldiers going
Right,
to
right.
the there are any Jews in this house, you
Yeah.
know, Anne Frank kind of thing, you know, no sir, there are none, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the age-old dilemma about did that person sin, and but I think Aquinas would say that they did. Okay, but do you remember the reason why? It's not just that it's not a nice thing to do.
Isn't it just because it's a disorder in your, like, between your body and soul or something like that? Something where it's just like you're lying and it's
Yeah. I mean, like there's got to be integrity. Like for example, the second person of the Blessed Trinity is the Word of God. Okay, Thomas describes the second person of the Blessed Trinity, who took on human flesh as Jesus, as the Word of God, the concept in the mind of the Father. Okay, that's how he describes the second person of the Blessed Trinity. Okay, so clearly, you know, Jesus is the way, the life, and you know that he's the truth. So what he's saying is that if something originates in your mind, like every thought does, like me saying, I'm whatever, I was born in Syracuse, New York, right, which is the truth. But if I said I was born in Des Moines, Iowa, the truth in my mind and what comes out of my lips is not ordered. Okay, so some people would say, man, you're taking this way too seriously, Aquinas, but that would be his reasoning. Okay, so this is the way he says it.
He says, an action that is naturally evil in respect of its genus can by no means be good and lawful, since in order for an action to be good, it must be right in every respect, because good results from a complete cause, while evil results from any single defect. Now, a lie is evil in respect of its genus, since it is an action bearing an undue matter. For as words are naturally signs of intellectual acts, it is unnatural and undue for anyone to signify by words something that is not in his mind. So when you're looking at that dog, thinking,
that is the ugliest dog I've ever seen in my life, and your words say, oh, that is so beautiful. There's something that, yeah. So that's his reasoning, anyways. Okay. So,
right.
Want to move on to number 4?
Sure.
Okay.
They keep getting more controversial every time, right?
Oh boy.
Okay, so number 4.
Wait, but the church doesn't technically teach that, does it? Officially, what is it?
I think the official, at least what I've heard, is you must tell the truth to one who deserves the truth or something. Okay. So if
that's what's required.
Like
if you have no reason to lie to someone about like something really silly or something, then don't do it. But like
somebody comes up to me, like some guy, like, hey, Mr. Palmer, is your daughter single? And well, he doesn't need to know. Okay, so it's like the story remember the story in the Bible when Abraham told somebody that.
Didn't tell them that Sarah was his wife.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, and he lied because he was trying to protect her.
Yes, because they had a feeling. Well, I think he was more protecting himself. Well, because they were just worried about what would happen if they were seen as a married couple, because they probably would want to get rid of him. Yeah. She was very beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. So that, was clearly a lie. So, all right, number 4, and I don't know if anybody out there is watching this live or not.
My sister is.
Okay.
Hi, Toa. You can say hi in the comments so we don't feel alone.
Okay, tell Tova she's one away from being offended, okay? Yeah. So just in case
stay tuned.
Just in case, stay tuned to get offended. Okay, so number 4, whether it is lawful to steal through stress of need. Have we talked about this one?
No, we have not actually.
Okay,
but it is a common question, I feel like.
Somebody runs into Walmart, steals, pack of hot dogs and a carton of milk and runs out. Did he sin? And Aquinas would say, we need to know the circumstances. Most people today would say, well, of course he did. You can't do that. Right. You can't go into Walmart and steal something. But listen to this. Okay, he says,
Things which are of human right cannot derogate from natural right or divine right. Now, according to the natural order established by divine providence, inferior things like, products, food, clothing, are ordained for the purpose of succoring man's needs by their means. Okay, succoring just means to help man. Wherefore, the division and appropriation of things which are based on human law do not preclude the fact that man's needs have to be remedied by means of these very things. Hence, whatever certain people have in superabundance is due by natural law to the purpose of succoring the poor. Okay, so if you have something in superabundance,
which I dare say
A lot of people do.
everyone in this room does, okay? And probably most people in this country do. Not everybody, but probably
a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Probably everybody in our circles that we know, because we probably, it's like, okay. Since, however,
there are many who are in need, while it is impossible for all to be succored by means of the same thing, each one is entrusted with the stewardship of his own things, so that out of them he may come to the aid of those who are in need. Nevertheless, if the need be so manifest and urgent that it is evident that the present needs must be remedied by whatever means to be at hand, for instance, when a person is in some imminent danger and there is no other possible remedy, then it is lawful for a man to succor his own needs by means of another's property, by taking it either openly or secretly, nor is this, properly speaking, theft or robbery.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, what I've heard is in a society it's charitable for everyone to give over their property. Like St. Thomas, Aristotle, ancient medieval philosophers like them would argue that it's not so much they would kind of refute like the John Locke philosophy that all of us have rights. Like St. Thomas Aquinas doesn't really, and Aristotle don't really mention rights a whole ton. They mention more of like natural law, not natural rights. So they talk about what's our duty to everyone, not what's our right. So we have to be, like the passage just said, we have to be stewards of our property, and if someone else is in need, we have a right to give our property to them, and if,
or an obligation.
Yes, an obligation.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and if we don't, they are allowed to take it. So, like for example, if you are starving and I have bread and I don't give it to you, you would have the right to take that from me for your needs or the needs of your family. Like it's lawful to do that.
And I think that's not the way most people in this
Oh
country
no, not
operate.
at all. No, not at all.
And in fact, that's why it's controversial. I think your average, say, Republican, conservative, would not agree with this.
Yeah,
would say, but then you think of the inequality, and it almost sounds like, well, this sounds kind of communist or socialist, and it does kind of border on that, that there is a certain sense of common property and
well, I think it should be, the idea would be that hopefully a society would be willing to help their fellow man in those moments. I feel like in our society, at least in America, we're very much like, well, they should get help through this, and this, that kind of thing. Like, why does it have to be my, but I'm like,
I pay taxes.
They should take care of it. And I'm like, well, why can't we just, be a little bit generous? Not that the government mandates you have to be generous, you have to give this much away. But it's more like it should come from the love of Christ in us to do that.
Yeah, right. I mean, think about how many times it happens every day, 1,000 times in this country, where people pull up to lights and they're in their Mercedes or, Kia in my case, and then there's the homeless guy in the corner with and I'd say, just from my observation, not many people give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things I learned, so not yesterday, but last week in my politics class from Dr. Dougherty, is he was talking about natural law and natural rights and like comparing and contrasting them. And one of the really interesting things he said is that everyone's so prone to thinking they have this right and it belongs to them and no one can take it away from them, not even the government. So they're saying, so it kind of, how should I state this? It's like it sets up a precedent for egoism, which is like the opposite of like charity and being generous and everything. And yeah, I think the people who are suffering on the streets and the people who drive by and don't give them anything are a great example of that. Like, we're so prone to our rights and our property, we don't give it to, we don't let anyone else share in the abundance. We don't give anything, and it's like a egotistic kind of thing where we only care about ourselves.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, and I've used this excuse a lot of times. I think like, I'm responsible for my family. I've got 3 kids and a wife and a mortgage and 3 car payments, and but I'm also going out and eating out and going to movies and and taking vacations, and that's I don't know. I sometimes think many of us may be surprised when we come face to face with Jesus, and he's like,
so that time you got talked about, like, instead of giving, did you actually need that? Was there food at home?
But I do think you could go overboard the other way. I mean, if I'm giving all my money to
neglecting your family,
that's very true.
Way, you don't want to do that either.
So, anyways,
but also I imagine, though, the person who maybe does have to take something from someone else if they're really in a struggling point, I think usually those people are very generous and very thankful and grateful people who do have to. But I imagine most of them would eventually one day try to repay that. If you had to steal, I've heard a lot of stories of people who have like taken something from a store or taken something from someone, and they come back when they've actually are doing better and they do try to repay it. So.
But that. Vicky Smallwood.
Yes, Vicky is here. Yes, I was going to tell you that we are not alone.
Almost
and
alone.
Tova's trying to comment, but she's having difficulties, so we're at least having...
Just out of curiosity, is anybody on our YouTube page?
My sister was, but she hasn't commented.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we don't. That's not many people are aware of that one, but
yeah.
Okay. On Facebook, we got a few people that are tuned in. All right, let's move on. Vicky and Tova and Sissel, get ready here, okay?
Uh-oh.
I want to just kind of read this and then not try to defend or apologize, but let's just kind of get into the mind of Aquinas and see what's going on here. This has to do with whether the woman should have been made in the first production of things. Okay, so basically saying, when God created the world, should he have created a woman? Okay, or just like all men,
Oh, okay. So we're saying like even. Like basically, when Eve was created, should she have been created?
Yeah, should have.
Okay, I was trying. For a second, the way it was worded, I thought he was saying like when he made Adam, he should have been Adam and Eve should have come out like at the same time, and not like Adam and then Eve.
Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 2 objections and then Thomas's response. Okay. So this first part is not Thomas. This is actually something he's going to refute. Okay. So don't get offended yet. Okay. He says it would
seem that the woman should not have been made in the first production of things. For the philosopher, Aristotle, says that the female is a misbegotten male. Have you ever heard that quote?
No, I have not.
Okay.
All right.
That's a famous Aristotle quote. Yeah. That basically like it went in the...
What are the defects?
like the man is the perfect creature, and then something, if it went wrong, there's females. Okay, that's Aristotle. Okay, he says, but nothing misbegotten or defective should have been in the first production of things. Therefore, a woman should not have been made in that first production. Okay, that's the objection.
Okay.
But here's what Thomas says. Now, tell me if this is any better. Okay, as regard the individual nature, woman is defective and misbegotten. So he's kind of agreeing here.
For the active force, now this is where he gets into like Aristotelian biology. Okay, so he's going back, even from his standpoint, like 1,500 years. Okay. And he's going, and this is, to me, this, he says, the
active force in the male seed tends to the production of a perfect likeness in the masculine sex, while the production of woman comes from defect in the active force, or from some material indisposition, or even from some external influence, such as that of a south wind, which is moist, as the philosopher observes. So they're saying, like, what
kind of went wrong in the process that, it doesn't really quite make sense, like a south wind. It says, on the other hand, as regards human nature in general, woman is not misbegotten but is included in nature's intention as directed to the work of generation.
he's realizing, we need women because we need babies, right? You're not going to have babies with a bunch of men. Now, the general intention of nature depends on God, who is the universal author of nature. Therefore, in producing nature, God formed not only the male, but also the female.
So he seems to be saying that, we need women. They weren't a mistake. They had to be created, but they still are inferior. Is that how you take it? That they're necessary,
Which is,
but they're misbegotten.
Yeah, the misbegotten phrase is an interesting one, because you're thinking about it, this is what God created, and God can't
why would he
can't make something wrong, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can't oops, I didn't put the right gear in the machine that made a woman, and she's a mistake. You know, so that's what's the interesting part of it.
The only thing I can think of is that, Aquinas was an ordered person, and he if you talk about the 9 choirs of angels, he didn't say, oh, they're all equal, they're all great. He'd say, no, the seraphim are the best, and then the cherubim, and then and
the levels of hell, the levels of heaven. Is
everything is ordered. What's the highest intellectual virtue? It's wisdom. What's the highest virtue? It's charity. What's the next? It's faith and hope, and so everything. So I think he's saying, okay, we've got these 2 sexes; they have to be ordered.
Yeah, they can't be equal. I think he has a struggle with equality.
Right. Which is again in our age, everything is equal.
So that's the thing, is that you can go too far both ways. So the thing is that women are equal in dignity, but they're not the same.
Exactly.
They are. I'm sorry. It's very controversial. Men are generally stronger than women.
Yeah, well, I don't even think there's anything controversial.
There shouldn't be anything controversial.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of women that could beat me in an arm wrestling match.
Yes, there is.
But I could probably beat most women.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they're very different. But they have different roles. We relate to God differently. We, obviously women have an easier time with the understanding. I'm a bride of Christ, and men are I am, the hands, feet of God. There's a lot of different things that make, us different.
Yeah. So now, go on, because I'm going to do another one here, okay? This has to
do with more of the order within the couple, okay? This is the objection. Further, subjection and limitation were a result of sin. For to the woman was it said after sin, thou shalt be under the man's power. And Gregory said that where there is no sin, there is no inequality. But woman is naturally of less strength and dignity than men. For the agent is always more honorable than the patient, as Augustine says. Therefore, woman should not have been made in the first production of things before sin. So now he's making a distinction between
before sin and after sin.
Okay.
Okay, and the woman. So Thomas says
subjection is twofold. One is servile, by virtue of which a superior makes use of a subject for his own benefit. And this kind of subjection began after sin. So he's saying after sin, men were more inclined to
mistreat women and lord over them. There is another kind of
subjection, which is called economic or civil, whereby the superior makes use of his subjects for their own benefit and good. And this kind of subjection existed even before sin. For good order would have been wanting in the human family if some were not governed by others wiser than themselves. So by a kind of subjection, woman is naturally subject to man, because in man the discretion of reason predominates, which seems to imply that reason does not predominate in a woman. Nor is inequality among men excluded by the state of innocence.
So I think he is saying that there are some natural advantages to the male sex, like wisdom and reason, and
So why are men jumping off of garage roofs into
They weren't doing that back then.
You're saying more wisdom.
Yeah, if you're driving on the freeway and someone goes flying by you 110 miles per hour, I'll tell you, a 99% chance that isn't a woman.
I'm not saying that men are not, maybe better in something, not at all, but I think it's funny, the wisdom part, because I'm isn't there the common thing, women live longer for a reason?
So this is refuted. Okay, and you go to a football game in Green Bay, and it's -10, and the idiots in the crowd that don't have their shirts on are going to be dudes. Now, granted,
there's reasons.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different, but they're not going to be.
Yeah, I mean, guys do a lot of stupid stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Really do. And girls are-
William's like, yeah. Yeah, man.
William's like, I have friends, I know. Like,
So,
yeah, not saying there are men and women have their different strengths and weaknesses in a lot of different areas. That's why I'm like, we need both of them. By the way, Vicky commented, we were blessed to be made from the rib of man. Wow, woman, was it the left rib that protects the heart, and therefore we were given a sixth sense, and was not God very pleased after he finished his creation?
Yeah, there you
So,
go. It was,
very
and
true.
so and I think like I know when within a marriage, I think there is that feminine genius, and tell me what you think of this, being of the female sex. So I think some women can wisely say, well, honey, husband, you're in charge. But the good husband always wants the best for his wife.
Right.
So ultimately, the wife's going to get what she wants, right? But even if she turns over the official authority to the man, I think that's actually a very good formula for success in where the woman is wise enough to know, first of all, pick a man who loves you, and then allow him to lead. But since he wants your best interest, you're going to end up getting what you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it does. Absolutely. I think, nowadays we just have a really hard time, women especially have a really hard time, that idea of giving the lead to a man. But there are some things that, as I'm not married, I've not been in a long-term relationship, but there are certain things that I just know that I desire. Like, men are, there's a comfort there in men. There's a leadership there that is really beautiful. Obviously, it represents Jesus, because he's being the perfect man. And it's just a reminder that I can have as many amazing girlfriends ever, like my best friends, who we can do lots of beautiful things together, but that they won't fulfill me in that way.
And they won't be able to open up the sauerkraut jar either.
Funny story. Tova can attest to this. I actually am better at opening jars than anyone in my family.
Really?
My dad has had to give them to me. It's always a very sour point when he has to give me the jar, because I'm very stubborn and I will not let that jar.
Yeah, boy.
I will be on the ground, putting full.
You ever open up the
force.
sauerkraut one?
The sauerkraut ones. You know what I? You ever get a whack with a spoon if you?
Oh yeah. And whenever one of my daughters says, "Dad, can you open this?" I mean, to me, I don't know if you encounter this, William, but it's kind of like my manhood is on the line here. I have to open this thing.
It's kind of funny. My friend just actually sent me a funny video this morning on Instagram about a girl who is saying, listen, I'm not delicate like a lot of girls are. I'm a little bit rougher, and I can carry couches. I can strap a refrigerator to my back, sort of thing. It's but men are not. That's not what they're really attracted to. But they're like, I built up the skill. And she sent it to me saying, Sizzle, this is you, because I didn't have an older brother. I had a younger brother. So for a while, before he was big enough to do things, I was the one with my dad who'd carry the couches in when we're moving and things like that. And I was like, look at me go. And I'm like, man, I don't get brownie points for this. I tried.
Yeah. Well, my mom always used to say, there's a lid for every pot, so that woman you just described, there's some man that will really,
exactly.
I want that.
I want help carrying the sofa in. I don't want to have to ask the neighbor for help. Tova finally joined us. She finally got in.
Wow.
This episode is aptly named, and she said that, yes, I am good at opening the jar. I'm the one who opens the jars.
All right, there's confirmation. All right, we've covered 4. Now we're up to the 2 most controversial teachings in the Summa Theologia. Boy, you think that's only number 3.
Actually, I do have a quick question, real quick. Do you have a thought as to why you think that St. Thomas was writing about that in particular, that subject at the time?
About
women and those particular objections, and was it something that was talked about?
It must have been something that was being bandied about and discussed, and
but it just seems so illogical to say, should women have been created? Because of course they.
Well,
they
Mama Mary was a very beloved woman.
Yeah, and I think there probably was more chauvinism in that age.
Sure.
I think the pendulum has swung so far.
Too far.
Too far. But then again, in this age, there's such an attack on women, where a lot of the women in their sports can't even compete without having men in it, and I mean what was it? Somebody recently, the woman of the year was a man, and there's
there's one of the beauty brands launched a podcast to talk about womanhood and had 2 transgender men on it. And I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't get, where was my invite?
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
It's nuts. So, all right. So here's the second most controversial teaching in the Summa Theologia. Thomas asks
Whether the unnatural vice is the greatest sin among the species of lust. By greatest, he doesn't mean like, wow, that's awesome. He means like the
Thanks
greatest.
for clarifying.
Yeah, the worst. Now, the unnatural vice is sodomy.
Right.
Okay, so that's what he's talking about. And because nowadays people, I've heard it so many times, like, mortal sin is mortal sin. And, it's a person, does this sin of sodomy. It's, adultery is sin too. And fornication is sin. So it's all mortal sin, which is true. But Thomas is going, again, to rank these.
Yeah, they are ranked.
And and so he's basically gonna say something like fornication, and Adrian was talking about this on CDT the other day, and he did a masterful job of explaining it. Is that it's a natural sin? Okay, so it's kind of like if I eat 5 pieces of pizza, that might be the sin of gluttony. But if I eat these headphones, that's an unnatural sin because this is not meant to be food, right? Or it's so. In sex, there are certain things that are natural and they are geared towards procreation, but they're still sinful because it's not appropriate. It has to be within the confines of marriage, right?
Yeah, another example I like to use as far as like the ranking of these mortal sins go is, yes, they're all mortal sins, and this example is it sounds crazy if you don't know about it before, but I've heard that blaspheming God even once is far worse than you could argue that blaspheming God is way worse than all of the abortions that a doctor could perform. Like, blaspheming God just once is worse than like 60 or 600 abortions a doctor could do.
Pretty
insane to think about.
That's a controversial thing, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that when you talk about language, there are certain words that if somebody says, I heard the other day, and there's words that if somebody were to say, like on a broadcast, let's say you're doing the Super Bowl broadcast, and you say, and you guys know what I'm talking about. You say that, your career's over. But if you said, "Oh my God,"
No, that's not.
But to your point, William, that's bad.
Yeah.
And that is 1,000 times worse than what our culture is saying you can't say.
Yeah.
Because what our culture is doing is protecting groups of people. Now, I'm not saying we should be using those words, and those words are offensive, and there's a lot of historical, reasons why it's not appropriate to say those words. But at the same time, somebody says something against God, or they say, they say the words Jesus Christ, but in a way that is not, honoring him. Nobody's even going to bat an eye.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody even cares.
It's crazy.
It's all upside down.
It is.
And so the next video I'm going to do, it might be something we can talk about. I'm not going to be here next week, but the next
2 weeks.
This lady did an article in USA Today, and it basically, the article, I couldn't believe it, was about how soon should a couple who begins dating become intimately? Let's just say it that way. How soon? And of course, she goes through the whole article and never mentions the fact that this act can bring forth new life.
Wow.
Doesn't even mention it. It's
Wow.
all about
We've completely divorced.
how well do you know the person? What are the circumstances? Do you feel comfortable with the person? How old are you? Where are you in your life? And it's like
completely ignoring the purpose.
the exact purpose.
Divorced sex from making a child.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. In fact, when I make this video, because her email is on the bottom of the thing, I'm going to email it to her.
Okay.
And it's horrific, and this is such a blight in our culture right now, and is that we don't even think about the purpose,
insane.
The very purpose of that act. And I think you know what Aquinas says about why fornication is a sin. He says it's because of the potential life that you bring forth. It isn't fair to that child.
Yeah.
She never even
enters her radar.
That's another possibility.
It's just
It's
crazy.
insane. Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Okay. He says, in every genus, worst of all is the corruption of the principle on which the rest depend. Now, the principles of reason are those things that are according to nature, because reason presupposes things as determined by nature before disposing of other things according as it is fitting. This may be observed both in speculative and practical matters. Wherefore, just as in speculative matters, the most grievous and shameful error is that which is about things the knowledge of which is naturally bestowed on man, so in matters of action, it is most grave and shameful to act against things as determined by nature. So he's talking about natural law here. He's talking about things that we naturally know. And when you go against things that are just naturally known, that's the most grievous, because we should all know this naturally.
Yeah,
right?
and the definition of natural law is like the knowledge or the reasoning between what is good and what is evil, correct?
And
I think that's what I've heard.
That's imprinted on us.
Right.
We don't have to be taught. You know,
Right, right,
I don't have to tell you that innocent life should be protected, or that
or if we like threw a bottle at you randomly to hurt you, that's wrong.
Yeah,
Right,
don't
right.
do that. Or,
Yeah.
And you know, I use an example in my class of, you know, a person comes across a small child and they're on a railroad track and there's a train coming. You know, nobody says, "Where's my catechism? You know, what do I need to do right now?"
Right.
We just know.
Right. Yeah.
To protect life. Okay. That's ingrained in us. It's
Uh-huh.
not like, "Where's that Bible when you need it?" You know?
Right.
Okay. Therefore, since by the unnatural vices man transgresses that which has been determined by nature with regard to the use of the venereal actions, it follows that in this matter this sin is gravest of all, and it comes. After it comes incest, which is contrary to the natural respect which we owe persons related to us. Okay, so he's gonna rank them. You know, of these sins, you know, fornication would be the least sinful, and then adultery, because you're messing with a bond. You know, a man and a woman have, you know, come together, and then incest, and then, you know, he goes up and up and up. Okay, so anyways. All right, so that's that. And then number one, you guys, you know, William knows what it is, but you know, what could be the more controversial than any of these? And we've talked about this before, I think. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the email said.
Okay.
We haven't talked about yet.
Here it is. Tell me if you think this is the most controversial. He says, whether it is lawful to kill sinners.
Oh, the heretics one. Yeah, that's right.
But this isn't even heretics. This
He's just
is
saying sinners.
Okay, I'm just gonna. I won't do the heretic one, but I'm just gonna do sinners. Okay. Tell me if you see a silver lining in this, because I think there is, and of course, as I said on CDT this morning, I'm not advocating for killing sinners. Okay.
I just want to make that clear.
He says it is lawful to kill dumb animals. You know, dogs, cats, porcupines, insofar as they are naturally directed to man's use, as the imperfect is directed to the perfect. Now, every part is directed to the whole, as imperfect to perfect, wherefore every part is naturally for the sake of the whole. Okay, and I think this goes back to what you were talking about earlier with like Hobbes and more of the looking at the common good rather than the
modern philosophy,
the individual good, right?
Yeah.
For this reason, we observe that if the health of the whole body demands the excision of a member, cutting off, through its being decayed or infectious to the other members, it will be both praiseworthy and advantageous to have it cut away. Now, every individual person is compared to the whole community as part to a whole. Therefore, if a man be dangerous and infectious to the community on account of some sin, it is praiseworthy and advantageous that he be killed in order to safeguard the common good, since a little leaven corrupteth the whole lump. Now, as controversial as this is, we're doing this in our culture today. We're people are being put to death, right? I mean, so I guess he's saying kill sinners. You know, define a sinner. The guy that steals a pack of gum from Walmart.
Right.
You know, kill him.
Right.
You know, I mean,
it's different. I mean, even people who commit sins of adultery, like, you know, the government isn't gonna like put you to death for that, but like, you know, like mass murderers, you know, they go through trial and all that stuff. They could be put on death row or suffer, you know, solitary confinement or something like that. Because like, you want to define what a sinner is, because they're not gonna kill like every sinner.
Because we would basically say, I mean, you're talking about that blaspheming God would be one of the highest sins you could do. That means that every person who's done that would probably be one of the people on the shopping block over here.
Yeah,
you know? So it would be interesting.
But aren't we all sinners? So it was like.
Yeah, that we all did. Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Yeah, so we'd have to have some sort of rating system here, like how far is too far?
I'd have to go and read the more of this article
Yeah.
to see if he does specify what he means. I don't think he means every person with venial sins,
Right.
then
There would be no one left.
then you just drop an atom bomb on the whole world and kill
Yeah.
everybody. Because Thomas would certainly agree that he's a sinner.
Yeah.
But I think more grievous sinners he's talking about, and then he goes on with the heretics, and they get to be warned once or twice, and then if they get turned over to the civil authorities and be put to death.
Yeah.
But it's
I think more discipline can be taken towards people, especially people who are in any form of authority. I just don't know because I don't know.
Yeah.
You got to think about you want to have the person to have the chance for repentance.
That's true. Yeah.
Which they could do on their
Right.
as they're being sentenced to death, but
I tend to think that some of the people that we will surprisingly see in heaven are the ones who were executed,
Sure.
because very few of us know the exact moment we're going to die.
Right.
A lot of these people do repent and are, again, of course, I think they allow like a chaplain to go in and hear, that kind of thing. And a lot of us, I think I remember a lady called into Jeanette Benkovic. I don't know if you heard it the other day, and her husband died of a heart attack, and for like the month leading up to that, he had not been going to Sunday Mass because he stayed home to take care of their dog. And he said, well, honey, at least one of us needs to go to Mass. So this lady was calling in and crying because she's like, objectively speaking, my husband, sinned, and I'm worried about the state of his soul, because then, he doesn't go to Mass for a month because he's taking care of the dog, and then he dies. Imagine if that guy had said, okay, in a month from now, you're going to die. I bet you he would have been in Mass, because he didn't see it coming. So, anyway, that's a little far afield from what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is a movie kind of on the subject. If y'all ever want to watch it, Angels with Dirty Faces. It's from 1938, and it's got James Cagney in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about
See the guy that's like, you dirty
Yeah,
rat.
yeah.
Shit,
He
yeah,
doesn't
I think
point
I've
like
heard of
this
him, yeah.
in this movie, but the whole point is
Listening
he's being put to death for being a criminal, and there's a bunch of young boys that idolize him, and his priest friend is they grew up together. He's begging him to show remorse and show fear of death to not lead these boys astray.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's the whole premise of the movie.
All
I'll
right.
let you
So
watch
now
it.
I don't have to watch it. I just
That's the
got-
premise. You don't know what happens.
All right, so that's that. I won't get into the heretic thing because we've already talked about that. But he did say that heretics, under some circumstances, could be killed.
Yeah.
I think that one makes more sense, honestly,
Yeah.
to me than just because that is very openly trying to lead other people away from God
Mhm.
and leading people to eternal separation from God.
Yeah.
So that's a really serious thing.
Yeah, I was reading this book called St. Pius V, one of the many books we have, and it's just about his life and his papacy and everything. And one of the interesting things I read is that he was behind putting heretics to death. And I think this whole death penalty question is really interesting. I've heard good arguments on both sides. Like, there's one argument for the people who don't, or the people who use the talking points that we shouldn't advocate for the death penalty. They say life should be protected from the moment of conception to natural death. When they just die naturally, like no one can put them to death no matter what they've done. But other arguments on the opposite side I've heard is that no, the church actually teaches that the death penalty is permissible for criminals and mass murderers and heretics and all those people. But people will come back with like, well, what about human dignity? And I've heard arguments that it's actually good for their human dignity to put them to death for the common good, because if you're a threat to society, you shouldn't have the right to live to keep committing those crimes. You can lose your natural rights. You could even lose a right to life in certain circumstances. So the church has taught for the longest time, as far as I know, that the death penalty is permissible to criminals.
The traditional teaching of the church is that it is. And I think it's probably in line with what Aquinas is saying.
I think so,
here. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, you get this crazy stuff like, these drag shows where they got these little kids. And I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say, let's bring back the death penalty for this. And again, I'm not advocating that, but I'm saying that I think what Aquinas did was he took scandal very seriously.
Yeah.
And he took the overall common good seriously and saying if there is one bad apple that's corrupting other people, because it might not be him who lands up in only him, he might corrupt other people
and
they
people with him,
end up in hell also. And I think we've lost the sense of sin, the loss of hell. And most people don't even think about it.
My sister has, I can never avoid thinking about it. My sister has on her laptop a sticker that's like "Remember your death." It's Memento Mori, and it's with the skull on it. Yeah. And I'm like, every time she's sitting there with it open, I'm like, all right, thank you for the reminder today. I needed my daily reminder.
Nowadays you got all these young people that are like dying suddenly, and you hear, I mean, these, all this. I mean, like when you hear of somebody dying suddenly, the first thought in your mind should be, I hope they are prepared. But very rarely does anybody even ask that question.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, we'll see you on the other side. My angel in heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody goes to heaven.
No, but it's a real thing to contemplate.
Yeah. No one really thinks about it, but yeah, it is true.
The most important thing.
Yeah.
So basically, the premise of this show is that we have everything upside down in our culture today. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, do we really need to go on to tell everyone that? By the way, Vicky said St. John Paul II, talking about capital punishment, said that in our age and time we have the capability to put serial killers in prison. But if, let's say, we live in an island without the possibility to keep the dangerous person locked up, then killing the dangerous person would be the thing to do to protect the rest of the population. If I remember correctly, that's what JP.
So it would be circumstantial, and you'd have to look at the circumstances of the.
It all depends on the circumstance.
Yeah, if you're like, in a nomadic tribe and there's some raging lunatic running around attacking everybody, you just you can't build a prison right then. You might just have to put that person in jail,
Yeah.
But in our culture today, I think that, some people would say, you can put a person in a decent prison. They're going to get 3 meals a day and be treated relatively respectfully, and you don't have to kill them to death. But like you said, there's arguments on both sides of that.
Yeah. Well, I know in other countries, when they put you to death, they hang you, they torture you. So the U.S., I'm not saying it's humane when they put the person to death, but I was told by a lawyer just to be thankful that
you're in the United States.
US.
Or just avoid doing anything that's going to put you on the death.
Some cultures you steal, they cut your hand off. That's the hardcore. They go medieval on you.
My sister says you're welcome for having her sticker that says reminds me of my death every day. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're running a little bit behind, but
that's okay. We were rushed at the beginnings, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Okay. We'll ease into the end. We were rushed at the beginning. So let's transition to our next stage of this program.
Welcome to that part of the show where we give Dave Summa to think about and laugh about.
And he gives it right back.
Not always the laughter, but he.
All right, you got a joke?
I do, yeah. I had to look it up last minute, but I do have one, yeah.
Preparation is your middle name, isn't it?
I guess so.
Hold on a second, Dave. I don't know if that's the cop felt like the pot, like calling the kettle black today.
Hey, don't look at me. Hey, I got mine.
No, but you literally came into the show saying like, "Oh, I've been rushing into these things so fast."
Well, hey.
All right.
That's great. All right.
What do you call a well-balanced horse? You should know this one. It's pretty easy.
A well-balanced horse.
A well-balanced horse.
I'm not really a horse person.
No.
Horse. Colt.
Is it something with to do with like? Doesn't the word like equality or something like that? Is it something along because the word for
colt is equine is.
Yeah, equine is what I was thinking about. Equality.
Aquinas.
No.
Well balanced. No. So balance would be like level, even. You say about well-balanced horse?
A well-balanced horse, yeah.
Okay, I give up.
I have no
okay.
idea.
Stable.
Oh my gosh. We were reading into this part. Going too hard.
Okay. Oh, Diane does not approve. All right.
Hello. So so my really, really creative topic today is the 25 most controversial topics in college.
Ooh.
Most controversial
topics
All right.
in college. Like so when I went to college, you don't get.
Okay.
The things that, like, if you're going to argue in a speech or a paper or things like that, these are the most controversial things that you could present about.
Oh, okay.
Slash, like, just in college culture are the most controversial, strong opinions on. Actually, some of these, when I was in speech classes and when I was in my English classes, we were actually banned from writing on. Because
really?
it was, they
Oh,
said,
the topics that you can't touch.
they were like, they said, basically, usually there was three. There were three big ones that all the professors are like, listen, you're not gonna change anyone's opinion in a 4-minute speech.
Right.
You're not going to change anyone's opinion in a 2-page paper right now. It's not worth it. You're just trying to get your class grade. Just like don't go there.
Don't go there.
So
how many are there?
There's 25. So let's just see how many y'all can get. I feel like the top 2 are pretty. I would say are pretty obvious. Some of them are a little bit interesting, but most of them I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah.
All right. You want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay.
So,
abortion.
Yes, abortion is number 2.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So
you keep in...
point for Dave. We'll just go back and forth until you all run out of ideas.
Getting drunk.
Let me see if there's anything about drinking on here. Nothing on drinking.
Okay.
Is contraception in there?
I don't think I think that would probably be lumped together with abortion.
Okay, yeah,
I don't think
makes
it's,
sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say homosexuality.
I'm gonna give it to,
marriage.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. Marriage equality. Yeah,
Okay,
marriage
okay,
equality. Yeah, that works.
What number?
That's number 12.
Really?
Surprisingly,
Wow.
well,
I thought that was gonna be number 1.
Think about what colleges are like nowadays.
Yeah, right.
That's not gonna be that controversial.
Yeah,
anymore.
right.
All right.
Gluttony.
No.
Okay.
Racism.
I'm gonna give it to you. Black Lives Matter is on the list.
Where's that coming?
21.
21.
Black,
Wow.
Black Lives.
Okay.
I'm impressed. Black Lives Matter made it on the list. Actually,
Is that the only one that has to do with racism?
I'm double checking. I think. Oh, white supremacy.
Okay.
White supremacy came in at 18.
Oh.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we got 4 of them so far, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any guesses?
So should we just kind of throw them out now?
Yeah, just throw 'em out.
Okay. I'm gonna say women's rights, like equality.
Yeah, I think that would probably fell under marriage equality, possibly too. I don't know. There wasn't one for feminism, really, which is surprising to me.
We haven't got number 1 yet.
Yeah.
How about transgenderism?
Yes.
Oh.
Transgender rights is number 16.
16. Okay.
Okay.
And we still haven't got number 1.
Mm-hmm.
The most obvious one. Okay.
Yes, really.
How about what is it called? Well, the death penalty?
I don't actually think that was on here.
Oh, immigration.
Immigration.
Oh, wow.
Number 13.
Okay, immigration. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
How about
one of them we just talked about.
Sexism?
No.
No. How about just like religion? Like just
religious freedom, number 3.
Okay. Did I say immigration?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
we got that one. Okay.
I'm still surprised about number 1. Number 1 is the only one. There's a few that I think make sense, but I mean, all of them are ones that you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But one we just talked about.
Okay. Well, we just talked about we talked about lying. We talked about theft. We talked about death penalty. Wait. Death penalty.
Capital punishment.
Is that number 1?
That's number 11.
Oh, okay. Capital punishment.
Y'all giving up?
How about
is lying on there?
No.
How about Islam?
There is Islam. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's not quite Islam.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll let you
that's
have
more
it.
like Middle East politics.
Politics,
yeah.
you know. I saw that and I was like, I saw and I was like, Islam. And as I was reading it, I was like, that's not Islam.
Colonialism?
Colonialism is a good guess, but no.
Okay. I'm thinking about like the whole idea of like Indian rights.
Native American. No, there's nothing like that.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of politics.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And some science stuff.
How about
Wow, mine's drawing
Do
a
you
blank.
want me to just go?
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead.
All right, okay. So do you want me to go backwards to
Yeah,
number
yeah,
one? Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
number 25 was universal health care. Universal
Okay.
health care, so health care.
Oh,
Uh,
that was
number 25.
Was the vaccine on there?
Vaccine is number 5 now.
Okay.
I
Oh, wow.
I bet you a few months, like a couple years ago, it wasn't as high on this list.
Yeah.
23 was student debt crisis. 22 is cancel culture. 20 was the electoral college. 19 was the Green New Deal. 17 was federal livable wage. 15 is the opioid crisis. 14 is the Trump presidency.
Oh, wow.
10 is marijuana legalization.
Oh.
So marijuana actually was one of the top ones. Drugs was something we were not supposed to write about. They said just don't go there.
Okay.
9, evolution. 8, global climate change.
Oh.
7, free market capitalism. 6, privacy rights. 5, vaccines, like I said. 4, animal rights.
Oh.
Number 1, gun control.
Oh,
yes. Gun control.
So
yes.
usually when I was in classes, they said abortion, gun control, drugs. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, gun control. Yeah, didn't think of that one.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Okay.
hope that was enlightening.
Yeah. Okay. I thought about. I was like, how do I do something on controversy? And I just didn't. And then I just started doing some searches, and I ended up with just these random kind of historical. I found one that said the 100 most significant historical events ever.
Oh, goodness.
Okay,
gracious.
so now I'm not going to ask you to just kind of grab them, but I'm going to ask you just a quick,
A summary of it.
Whoever just shouts out
Okay.
the answer gets it right, okay? I mean, gets the point, okay?
Okay.
Apollo 11 astronauts landed on the moon in
69?
1969. Name one of those astronauts.
Neil Armstrong.
Okay. You know the other
Was
one?
John Glenn one of them, or no?
Buzz Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin.
Okay.
John Glenn was another mission.
The year U.S. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
63.
Okay.
It's also the year America, the Beatles landed
The
in America.
Soviet Union launched what? The first
Oh.
man-made satellite in 1957.
Oh, what was the name of it? So you're looking for the name, right?
Yeah, the name.
Oh,
As soon as I say it, you're gonna say,
something,
"Oh yeah."
Is it something little boy? No. Oh.
Is it space something or other?
It's just like a name, isn't it?
It's Sputnik.
Oh, that's right.
Sputnik. Now this is kind of random. Probably the hardest one. The discovery of the double helical structure of DNA. What year? Okay, 1953.
Okay, I was gonna say 73. I was only 20 years old.
What year did World War II start?
39.
39. Oh,
39.
my God, 49. Why did I almost say 49?
All right.
I almost said
William.
45.
Okay.
I was like 45.
What year
Yeah.
the global depression following the crash of the U.S. stock market started in October of what year?
1929?
29!
I just did like get numbers out fast.
We have a tie game in
Oh,
our
let's
hands,
go.
ladies and gentlemen. The year a global influenza epidemic killed
1918. 18?
18?
1918.
Oh, dang it. I am not doing well.
Why am I cheering for William? I don't know why.
Well, everyone wants to cheer for William because
Okay.
everyone wants to see me lose.
Okay. I want the last name
Okay.
of the people who flew the first heavier-than-air-powered aircraft in 1903.
They were
Oh,
Wright brothers, right.
Okay, right. Okay.
Oh, I was so confused.
Orville,
that was such a very interesting way of.
I know.
Orville and something.
Wilbur.
Wilbur, yeah.
When one of them died in the plane crash.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Okay. Who patented the telephone in 1876?
Bell.
Alexander Graham Bell.
I was like,
yes.
I can't remember his first name off the top of my head.
Okay, it's 4-3. Sissel is up. Okay. In 1859, Charles Darwin published a book which
Evolution. Oh.
which proved, with air quotes, that natural selection is the mechanism of biological evolution.
Oh,
what was
what's
the name of
book?
his book?
Hold on a second. I gotta think about this. I know it. I can get this.
Okay, and
No, hang on.
I gotta give
Is
you
there anyone else?
10 seconds.
What?
And you'll know this one.
I know,
Okay.
I'll know it. I just don't remember
Okay,
what
on
it is.
on the origin of
Oh,
species.
the origin of species. Right.
Origin of species. Okay. In 1848, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels published Blank, which explains history in terms of class struggle and proposes the workers unite and overthrow capitalism.
I'm not gonna remember the name of this book.
Oh, come on.
I think, therefore, I am. I don't remember what the name of the book is.
Oh,
Communist
wow.
Manifesto.
Diana!
yes!
There you go.
Oh, I forgot. forgot.
Diane.
I knew that.
Me too. Yeah, same.
That was that book.
So Diane and William have 4.
There's just information floating away.
Diane and William 4, Sissel 4.
It's 4 all day.
I'm just trying to make it more competitive. Okay.
I also got Communist Manifesto, by the way.
Okay. In what year did American colonists protest new British taxes by throwing
1775. 5.
Did you say 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes. Wow.
Go Liberty Kids. Yes, show I watched.
Okay. In 1607, English colonists established their first permanent settlement in the New World. In what city?
Jamestown.
Jamestown, Virginia.
I was just throwing out every name.
I was ready to say Virginia, but I wasn't ready for the
Okay, so now Sissel has taken a 2 lead.
I can't breathe.
Okay, tell me, whoever can get closest.
Oh dear.
The year that William Shakespeare wrote Hamlet.
Oh.
Whoever gets closest.
I'm gonna say 1558.
1558.
Gosh.
Okay, Sissel.
1557.
1557. So you're going earlier.
I'm going earlier.
Okay, it was basically 1600.
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
So you won.
Okay.
My
Okay, so William. Okay, no, actually I should be happy. William got that one. Okay, so now William's only down by 1.
I want a cheerleader.
Just forget about it. Okay.
I will say this is the only thing that's been warming me up all day.
In 1517, Martin Luther.
It's 99 theses.
95 theses.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. In approximately 1440 in Germany, this person invents a printing press.
Gutenberg press. Whatever that word, I can see it.
Using movable metal type and oil-based ink, bringing
Gutenberg.
Gutenberg. What?
Okay,
I
Diane.
said that just wrong. I can spell it. I just.
All right, Diane for the win.
No.
Okay, we have a tie game. Okay,
Is this the last one?
2 questions
Two more.
to go. Okay. Okay, whoever can get closer.
I'm so annoyed.
The Black Death or bubonic plague devastates Europe, killing 1/3 of the population. Whoever's closest.
When did it start?
On the year.
On the year. Okay.
Okay, it was actually only. I think it was only a 2-year.
Yeah, it was only a couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gosh. So wait, closer to just any of those years?
Well, it's only 2 years. I mean, so it's like they're not like 50 years apart. I mean, they're 2 years.
I don't remember the right century.
They're 2 years.
1333.
I'm gonna say 1340.
Okay.
42. 42. I'm gonna go 42.
I'm impressed if you guys are so close.
Oh, we
it's
actually
actually
close.
1347.
Oh wow!
All right, so.
Yeah, I knew it was 14th century. I just didn't know.
Well, I'm glad. Once you said 13, I was like, okay.
Okay, so here's the next one. Now, this one, since this is going to be the grand finale, let's just pretend we're tied. Okay, even though we're probably not.
I have no idea.
Okay, now I don't want you to yell this one out, but I want you to get your answer, write it down, and then we're gonna reveal. Okay, so here. Okay, so do you have a piece of paper?
I have my hands.
Okay. So do not yell this one out.
Just write it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What century? Feel like Alex Trebek all of a sudden. What century did the first crusade happen? Okay, what century? And whoever the first crusade.
The first crusade?
Yeah, what century did the first crusade?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I have an intelligent answer for this.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we?
So do I have to write, will it, or whatever you...
No, not in the form of a question, no.
I'm going to say...
Okay, so...
Hey, I haven't done anything yet, Diane. Give me a chance.
Diane, you're trying to get us off the air? Cause...
Just as an FYI, I just permanently just put this on.
Oh, because, yeah, see, there's Manny? Okay, Manny needs to get going.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right, so Sissel's answer is...
10th century.
8th century.
8th century, and...
Because I just thought...
And William says 9th.
10th century.
It actually was 11th.
Oh, Diane got it.
1095 to 1099.
Why did I think it was much earlier than that? I thought that there was a trick question and it was earlier than we thought it was.
I thought it was 800s or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So, all right.
Well, now I'm going to look at this all day.
I know.
My failure.
So I think, in all fairness, Sissel, even though you got that last one, I think Sissel got more. So, anyways, you both walk away winners.
No show.
There's only one winner. We don't give away what are they
participation and prize. Okay. All right. So no show next week because I'm going to be in Kansas. Unless you guys want to do a show.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Make sure you're on our email list.
Or get Adrian to host.
There you go.
So all right. Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. God bless you. See you in 2 weeks for the next Back to the Father.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.